Welcome to the Upshot, Multi-World Disc Golf's podcast about the latest in the disc golf world. I'm the editor, Charlie Eisenhood. Joining me, Josh Mansfield. Waco Annual Charity Open taking place this past weekend. Lots to talk about. A very exciting tournament down the stretch. Crazy finish in FPO. I don't know if the MPO finish really quite delivered in the way that it looked like it might, Josh. I mean, there was an opportunity, it felt like, for a six-way playoff. And you know what? Instead, Kyle Klein, just from the chase card, was like, I'm about to just tear it up down the stretch here, shoot a 13 under, and win this tournament with everybody else on the lead card throwing stones at each other.
I mean, I feel like we say this a lot, but if you watch post-produced and that's how you caught that final round, I'm very sorry. Because the live coverage, I think Disc Golf Network did a really good job and deserves credit. Because I think you're right that we didn't get the final round that we were really hoping for. Given how tight it was.
Don't get me wrong, it was still really good. I think it was still really good. It just it was like almost like incredible.
And I want to give credit to DGN because I think they did a really good job with the Kyle Klein chase card down the stretch, juxtaposing with Adam Hammes, because that being, the clear competition there. Really impressed with DGN. I thought they did a really nice job with that. And it's just one of the huge advantages of live is the ability to cover a story like that when the winner is coming off of chase cards. So great job to DGN on that point.
A classic issue for post-produced. Okay, so we got a lot to do today. We're gonna start today's show with a discussion of the top five. That is both the top five finishers at Waco in each division, but also the top five players by rating, the top five rated players and how they're doing, because not a ton of crossover between those two categories and some things to talk about there. Before we get to that, a quick mulligan. We talked about Simon Lizotte not playing this tournament, implying that it was because of his injury. Well, it may have been fortuitous that he was already planning not to play this tournament, given that he was dealing with some elbow soreness, but he never planned to play this tournament in the first place, so mulligan on us for not knowing that. At some point, I guess we should have a master spreadsheet of what players say they're going to play so that we can look at that, but
in advance, yeah.
That day is not today. So apologies for the error. So Josh, top five, pick a division.
Let's start an MPO. I mean, we started chatting about it already. Might as well keep that rolling.
Let's do it. So we're going to start at the top. We're going to start with Kyle Klein. After and we talked about this a bunch in our Rapid React segment that we did on Sunday night live in our Discord channel for subscribers. Encourage you to get a subscription and check that out, because we'll probably not cover some of the stuff we talked about there today. Kyle Klein comes out last year, kind of going out on tour, getting the van, the whole deal. And after a really great 2021 season, came out a little bit flat last year. And I think one of the things that maybe has been overlooked and will not be now that he has just won at Waco is that he has not missed the top 10, but twice since June 2022 at the Preserve. So he at Worlds and Green Mountain, he was still top 25, but he missed the top 10. Other than that, he has not missed the top 10 since the Preserve last year. Okay. We're coming up on 10 months of only missing the top 10 twice. He starts this year fourth at Vegas, and of course gets the win here at Waco. And I feel like, Josh, it's like we had this little speed bump in the road for Kyle Klein's development path, and he's right back on the track of what we saw in 2021, which is he could be one of the top five guys. And I wasn't here for the overreaction show. I'm starting to get the itch to overreact a little bit here.
One other thing that you can pair that with, remember when Kyle Klein was having his struggling season, Gannon Buhr was exploding as a top player. And so in terms of the conscious of the young player who's got it all, Gannon Buhr was at the top of our list and was managed to stay there, right? So even as Kyle Klein came back to relevance without winning events, Gannon Buhr just stayed at the forefront of our minds then and kind of occupied that space. But look at these two, right? Gannon's got a 1041 rating, and these ratings are updated. We're recording this Tuesday morning. These ratings have been updated with the new ratings update as of this morning. So anything we talk about ratings-wise is going off of those numbers right now. And, I mean, after you look at rating with Gannon at 1041 and Kyle at 1040, Gannon has one win that is a major to his name and deserves a lot of credit for that. But Kyle's now a multi-time Elite Series winner. And as Statmando sent us in the show notes, shout out to Statmando, 13th MPO player to win multiple DGPT Elite Series events. And that, I mean, that's
wow.
It's an impressive accomplishment, right? The kid he's still very young. He, in that early start last season, I think really removed a lot of hype around him and kind of cooled it off for a while. And it's back. Like, the Kyle Klein hype needs to be back because Kyle Klein is an exceptional player who is top 10 rated in the world and is playing like it.
This is the highest event rating he's ever shot at a big tournament. 1063.
Wow.
Average on the weekend. He shot a 9 under, and then an insane 13 under. As I mentioned in the Rapid Reacts, I don't really think you can shoot much better than 13 under at Waco. Maybe you could shoot 14. Like, I mean, what's the optimal round out there? It's not 18 under anymore. So
it's 16 is, I think.
It would be like a perfect round would be 16, right?
Yes.
Like pretty much without some 16. Crazy ace or something. We'll talk about the ace in a second.
Yes. Assuming as well, because I think like hole 18 in the ripping headwind is near impossible. I mean, it's a very, very difficult hole. And so honestly, depending on the wind situation, it's probably somewhere between a 15 to 16. That's like a perfect round.
I guess my point is that like he goes out in the final round, bogey free, and shoots close to perfect. And it was the best round of the weekend. What did the rating come in at? I actually didn't look at the actual specific round rating for his final round.
Comes in at 1084.
You have that, Josh? 1084. Yep. I mean,
yeah,
this was not a fluke. And, you know, 9 under is a nice round out there. That was one of the better rounds, both in the first and second round. I think it was one off the hot. I think Matty O shot a 10 down in round 2. The conditions were super good in round 1. So a lot of good numbers. So some 12, 11s. But yeah, extremely impressive. And did it on a day when other players up at the top of the leaderboard were just making some little mistakes here and there. You know, goes OB, miss a putt, weird drive out of position. Like, nobody seemed to want to just take the bull by the horns and win the tournament. And Kyle, like, at what point did it feel like Kyle was going to win? I don't really remember feeling like Kyle was going to be the guy until like midway through the back 9.
Mm-hmm. Honestly, we can talk more about this, but Adam Hammes, I think, is kind of fortunate that he finished in second place, in solo second place. There were enough guys around him. What was it, like a record-setting 11 within a couple strokes of the lead? And the fact that and look, a 9 down is still a good round, but a 9 down is what a lot of people shot, and there were a handful of double digits. And so I think...
and he shot a 9 down with an ace, Josh.
With an ace, right.
So he gets the eagle on 8.
He's very fortunate. He's very fortunate that there were not more guys there around with Kyle Klein, because it's definitely possible. Calvin doesn't get that double bogey on 12, and he's right in there despite pars on 17, 18. The what ifs that we could do. Matty O melted in the final 5.
Tough.
Right.
I mean, Cole Redolin is playing out of his mind. Cole Redolin shot a 10 under with 2 bogeys and a double bogey on his scorecard.
That's incredible. So maybe the answer... maybe the answer to your question, it looks like 15, not a lot of people are... I don't know, were there any birdies on 15? Nope, not a single birdie on 15. So he doesn't get a birdie there, but I think Cole Redollin's other birdies or bogeys are birdieable holes. They are. So there's your answer, right? Like if he pars that other one, birdies 2 more, 14 down. There's your perfect round.
Well, it'd be even better than that, wouldn't it? It would be 12, 14. It would be a 16 under. If he parred 15 and birdied 10 and 2, it would have been a 16 under.
16. Okay, so 16 under.
And he could have, I mean, in theory, you could birdie 9. So maybe 17 is still in the cards. If you're just completely playing out of your mind. Anyway, It doesn't really take away from the 13 under. It's hard to play that many holes with that much, treachery all around that effectively. I mean, and we'll talk about Cole in a second, but let's stay on Adam Hammes. It's a little disappointing, right? I mean, he looked like he was falling off the pace. Then he hits the ace. We never see aces from somebody who's like right in contention in the mix. I think the only other time that we've really seen that was when Ricky aced to win the Utah Open and just put it away, right on 18. The thing is, he was already ahead, and it was like a simple hole where he was going to win anyway. But like, obviously, that was an incredible punctuation mark. But this was like Adam Hammes, like right back in the mix, gets the eagle, and then just kind of doesn't bring it down the stretch. Too many faulty drives, missed a couple putts, and wasn't able to find enough strokes out there. And look, I still think this is a really positive result for Adam Hammes. I mean, we didn't see him up at the top of the leaderboard very much last year. And recall, at the beginning of last year, I sold all of his stock. And what did I do this year, Josh? I bought it all back. Looking good right now. I think that, this is his first podium since the 2021 Music City Open. That's crazy. And he'd won at, MVP just previous to that. Like he had that really nice 2021 season. And we just saw maybe that little slump. I don't know if it's quite appropriate to call it a sophomore slump, but I mean, we saw a few players like that where it's like great 2021, so 2022, and now like maybe resuming back to the trend.
And I hope that this continues. Where did he finish at LVC? I'm on a different page. I want to look something that up.
I want to just point something out. Yeah. This is like a very strange stat, courtesy of Statmando.
Okay.
We don't see that many chase card wins. Just ever, really. The last 3 times it's happened in MPO were all on courses like what we saw at the Beast, which are half open and half wooded. At 2022 MVP, Simon Lizotte won from the chase card. Of course, Corey Ellis, missing the upshot. At 2020 Idlewild, Eagle won from the chase card. And at 2020 Waco, Colton Montgomery won from the chase card. I mean, that's obviously sort of like a little bit of a weird one because it was the final round canceled for COVID. Yes. But notably, all Team Discmania players. Now 4 for 4 in the last 4 chase card wins.
All right.
So weird.
That is a bit of a weird stat. Wow. Okay. Team Discmania there.
We need a weird stat of the week segment.
There we go.
That's my new thing. Okay. You got what you're looking for?
Yeah. So he took 30th at LVC.
Hammes.
Not bad. Yeah. Hammes did. Not bad, but definitely not the start that I think. So here's what I'm going to say. I know you put a lot of stock back in Adam Hammes. It is encouraging to see him in second place at Waco. I'm going to wait. I'm going to withhold judgment until we get a couple more events under our belt, before and not just give a second place Waco reason to think that this is pulling him out of the slump completely. That's my final.
I got you.
Yeah. Final take there.
Okay. Let's talk about Cole Redollin.
Okay.
Cole Redollin's such an interesting player. It feels like he's got so much potential, and we just haven't really quite seen it on display. And this is actually it's hard for me to believe this, because we talked about him. We've seen him up at the top on lead cards and stuff. This is his first ever Elite Series or better podium. And since he started touring in 2021, he has 2 top 10 finishes in 25 events. Now, the thing is, it makes it sound like, oh, it's like this fluky thing, but I feel like it's not. I feel like we've seen that he has the potential to be one of the most promising young players. But I think you see a little bit of like why it's kind of give and take. I mean, look at this final round. How many birdies does he have? That's 7, 11, 14 birdies. Mm-hmm. That's better than Kyle Klein. But he 3 putts on hole 2 to bogey. He bad drive, and then 2 putts inside the circle on hole 10 for a bogey. And then goes out of bounds on hole 15, ends up taking a double bogey. So those are his mistakes. Other than that, he makes all of his putts and is like inside the circle on more than half the holes. 78% circle 1 in regulation.
It's a great number.
It's a crazy round. And the thing is, he backed it up with 9 down in the first 2 rounds. So, I don't necessarily want to extrapolate this to Kohler Dahlin about to have an amazing season, but I think it shows you the kind of potential he has, and he's just got to turn down the like blow up hole type mistakes and some of the putting issues. And if he does that, like, we're looking at somebody who could be a fixture inside the top 15.
He's had rounds like this before, and that's what's kind of gotten us talking about him. The problem is that he's had a hard time stringing together 3 or 4 rounds for an entire tournament. And this obviously is the first time that he's done so at the Elite Series level, but has so much potential, is talked about regularly. I hear his name all the time when pros are talking about young players that you need to watch. And I think Kohler Dahlin is like 18 or 19 too. So he's a young guy as well. A lot of potential coming out of Cole. Our next player, though, tied with Cole, Calvin Heimberg, who is actually the only player to appear on the MPO side of the top five, on both sides of the top five.
Oh, there you go.
Only player, top 5 by rating, who also finished top 5 at Waco. And I think Calvin had another strong showing and really could have put himself in position to win this tournament. A bogey on double bogey, on 12 hurts those chances. But if he birdies 17, 18 and you add those in, there's no reason why he's right there in the mix. And maybe not enough to win it, but second place solo with those birdies that I definitely think are doable for Calvin. And this combines with a strong start to the season. Calvin comes in now as the leader in the Disc Golf Pro Tour standings at 172 points. Kyle Klein third, Kyle Klein second, Paul McBeth third. Now, those ratings are obviously going to be strongly outsized by and lean towards the winners of those events. We know that the Disc Golf Pro Tour heavily favors winning above all else, so it makes sense that it goes Calvin and Kyle, who are our 2 winners thus far. But that's still a really impressive showing to see Calvin at the top in a season where, the hype was around contract year Calvin, but we've talked about this now. It may be now that Calvin has that kind of security and the comfort just to play disc golf that we may see a whole nother level of Calvin.
And I want to just point out, last year he had 6 tournaments where he averaged better than 1050 rating for the tournament. He's 2 for 2 to start the season. So, it's not, these numbers are not terribly far off from what he did at these tournaments last year, but it looks to me, watching him play, that he could be even more than last year, where he was a little up and down. Like, he had a lot of tournaments where he was top 5, and then he would have them when he's like 50th. which, I guess if you're not going to have it, it's better to just not have it all at once instead of like bleeding those strokes every tournament. I just feel like he's got the look of a guy who could go out and win Player of the Year this year. I obviously he's a front runner right now. Mm-hmm. It's way too early to have that mean anything. And can he deliver at a major? That's going to be vital if he wants to take it down. And that's been a sort of the challenge, right? But the putting looks a little bit better. He missed a couple putts late. It's not the strongest part of his game, but it just looks like he's like automatic. It's just like great shot, great shot, great shot. Now, I think you'd love to see him go out and take this one because the door was open for him to win this tournament.
It was.
And, he like missed the birdie on one. You can't miss the birdie on one. If you look at the leaderboard, almost everybody in the top 20 birdied one. And, to miss it that's disappointing. And it's like the kind of thing that like you basically lose a stroke to the field. And, I think I'm not going to shake a stick at anybody who finishes on the podium. It's hard enough to finish on the podium, let alone win. But I don't know. I just really like the look of Calvin so far this season. And I feel like we could see the kind of level of consistency that we saw from him in 2021 when he was like constantly on the podium.
Yeah, just a podium lock. You're missing out on pick points if you were not picking Calvin every single week.
Absolute lock. Okay, on to the 5th place finisher, Kevin Jones. This is some of the best disc golf we've seen from Kevin Jones in a long time. This is his first time finishing top 5 twice in a row since 2021. And, I think if there were concerns about Kevin Jones as a player, like after last year, like does he still have it in him to be a top level competitor week in and week out? I think those have basically been answered at this point. He looks really sharp, Josh.
Paul McBeth is in 3rd right now in the point standings, thanks to a silver event win last year as part of the wraparound tour. If you remove those points though from Paul, he drops down to 6th, and Kevin Jones rounds out your podium in 3rd, and behind only Calvin and Kyle. So of your non-winners, it's Kevin Jones. That's who's at the top.
Makes sense.
It does. I mean, he's played well, and it's in a way that feels very complete. He's 10th in Circle 1 in regulation right now. He's 14th in Circle 2 in regulation. He's 2nd in birdie percentage. He's got a 90% C1X putting rate. And honestly, a little bit lackluster 22% in Circle 2. So the Kevin's strength that we've always talked about has been his Circle 2 putting. And the joke is, Kevin would rather be 34 feet than 32 feet because he's able to jump putt that. But it's been a good start for him in the Circle 1 putting. It's up 4%, and it's early. I mean, we're only 2 tournaments in, and that's one of the biggest things to keep in mind here. But his Circle 1 in regulation percentage is really the difference maker here from last season, where he was only at 37% C1X, in the Circle 1 regulation, and he's at 52% right now.
Yeah, that's just
small sample size, but
of course,
15% is a big difference. Yeah.
All right, well, let's turn our attention to the top 5 by rating, and we have to start with Paul McBeth, who is at 1048, top-rated player in the world right now. And McBeth shot 9 down, just like Kevin Jones to start this tournament, and then ended up only shooting a 4 under. Now, he was pressing late. It's classic McBeth. He's going to go for the win. And the thing is, if you look at the bogeys that he took down the stretch, he bogeyed 12, 15, 16, and took a double on 18. If you flip all those to birdies, or, maybe you call a par on 18 and the other 3 become birdies, I mean, he's right in this tournament. Like, could have won / maybe go to a playoff. He had slipped a little bit off the pace in the front 9, which I think caused him to have to press, but I wouldn't really worry too much about Mr. McBeth. I do want to bring up one thing, Josh, that I heard him say. I can't remember if this was in the press conference or in a post-round interview, but I think Brian Erhardt asked him about, does it feel like the disc golf field has gotten better? And I think he said, that yes, like there's generally improvement over time. But he also said this. He said, I'm not playing as well as I used to. I'm not the best version of myself. Now, if you look at the rating, maybe that's right. Do you think that's true? Do you think McBeth is worse now than he was 5 years ago?
This feels like a live action Paul McBeth Instagram post to me. Where, right? He's going to talk about how he still got it. He still can do everything that he always has. He still is the beast. Just right now, it's just not jiving. But it will, right? Like that's how that feels to me. I agree. I don't think he is playing as well. 1048 rated. It's actually pretty low relative to where we've seen some of the top players and the bunchings of the top players. I think we're pretty typically seeing players. Usually there's a handful above the 1050 mark. And right now there are only two above the 1045 mark. And that's Paul and Ricky. So yeah, he's right. He's not playing as well as he usually does, but it's nothing that I'm curious if Paul McBeth's priorities have just shifted a little bit as a reflection of his schedule. He is playing in A tiers that are not on the Pro Tour. He's playing the bare minimum of Pro Tour events that he needs, which noteworthy for those who are looking at Paul McBeth as player of the year, that 13th at Waco is not going to be dropped because he's not playing enough events to get that as a drop. If the drops are all happening according, and he keeps the schedule.
I mean, for McBeth, I don't think he cares because he thinks that he can make it up at the majors, and he probably can.
Yeah, and I think that's the point, right? He's going to go play the majors. Are you going to say that you don't think Paul could win 2 majors this season? I'm not.
Who's ever going to say that?
Who's ever going to say that? And as long as he can keep doing that, I don't think it matters what Paul does elsewhere. He can go play whatever A tiers he wants. He can go hang out in Europe for 3 months. Like what does Paul McBeth have left to prove? And I know
the only thing that he can do at this point is improve his legacy as the greatest player of all time. But
he's got to catch Climo's record, right?
Prove. I mean,
right.
Yeah, but can he?
Isn't for majors? Isn't he only one behind?
Total majors, yes.
Yeah,
so
total majors, not worlds. Total majors. So he passes Climo's total majors, and then I think he probably wants a Champions Cup. If Champions Cup's going to be around as the 4th major, he'd like to have that one so he could say he's won them all. But after that, I mean, what? There's nothing left for him, right? It's improving the legacy, and we do this with the likes of Tom Brady. We do this with the likes of all sports stars who stay at as the
who transcend.
Great player, and yeah, great way to put it. And we start looking for the reasons why they're on the decline because we're ready and excited about the new players behind them because we've talked about them for so long. But there is no reason Paul could just go play A tiers and win 2 majors a year and do that for 5-10 more years even and enjoy it. And good for Paul. Great for Paul.
I'll just say this weekend, Paul McBeth shot a frankly woeful 10% from circle 2 putting. And that's classic McBeth, right? It's like everything's working except one thing. And right now that one thing is circle 2 putting. And we see that happen to him. They just not have it. And then he'll get it back and then he'll win. The guy's just insane. Anyway,
he is.
Let's move on. Ricky Wysocki, DNP, out with the wrist swelling. Unfortunately for Ricky, I think this is just a fact of life for him at this point. Dealing with some of the symptoms of Lyme disease, like long-term effects. I mean, whether that's, some people say that doesn't exist. It seems like to me that it exists given what we've seen with Rick. Hopefully he gets healthy and can get back. It sounds like things were on the mend this week, but he decided to sit it out. And yeah, it sucks for Ricky, but I'm not sure there's much else to say.
No, hasn't
Let's
played
move
this
on
season. Can't say much.
Yeah, it sucks. Eagle McMahon is next in the ratings list, and he finished 35th after shooting a brutal 976 rated even par round one. He four putted and like had rollaways, and it was just like a total disaster. The last time Eagle shot even or worse was at 2021 Waco. Something about this tournament just not clicking for Eagle. Although he got to give him credit. He shot two really nice rounds after that to kind of move back up the leaderboard. Any signs of concern, Josh, for Eagle with what happened here?
No, still no to me. It's, the people were kind of worried about LVC, and his putter was off first tournament, whatever. Come back to Waco. His worst rounds in his career are always at Waco. And so I am not willing to panic over one round. He gets back into making cash with two 1040 plus rounds. No reason to worry about Eagle yet.
Chris Dickerson, 1042 rated. He ended up finishing tied for 22nd. And I don't know, just kind of played ho-hum. Putter wasn't really working. 80% C1, 9% C2. That's not very Chris Dickerson-like. Is this just first tournament issues, or are we concerned about Chris Dickerson, given that we haven't really seen him operating at the level of 2 years ago in really since then?
Here's the problem with Chris Dickerson. He doesn't play enough events to perform poorly. And I don't know if I should, top 20 seconds not great, but he will very quickly find himself outside the relevant conversation of top 5 guys, even if he is rated as such. If he only plays 70% what most of the other guys do, and he is not regularly at the top, there's less of a margin for error for Chris in the public perception. And so that's not to say Chris can't come out and win Champions Cup again. That's not to say Chris can't come out and have a couple of really good events. But if Chris wants to be known, and maybe this isn't important to Chris, but if Chris wants to be the top 5 guy and be in contention,
that he can be,
and be the one, and he can be, and he has the skills, then he has to be more consistent, and the burden of consistency is higher on him because he plays less events. And that's just a simple fact of the way people perceive the tour, the way tour points function, and everything. And so this is not a great start, but it's only his first event. It's first one back. I'm withholding judgment at this point and waiting to see. But just know that if Chris has a bad Texas swing, that's like a quarter of the guy's season, and he's just lost.
He is going to play more this year than he ever has played before, I think, including going to Europe. So that's good to see. I think it could help iron out some of those issues that you're talking about. But still, yeah. I mean, he just got to pick up the putter. I think that'll make a big difference. He missed a lot of circle one putts this weekend. That's not very typical for him. Okay, last guy, top 5, Calvin Heimberg. Already had plenty to say. Looking great to start the year. We're going to take a break. When we come back, FPO Top 5 coming your way.
At Pound, the quality of our gear runs deeper than the stitching. That's why we make everything right here in the U.S., employing highly skilled, well-paid professionals. From bomb-proof Cordura fabric to YKK zippers and recycled plastics, we source the highest quality U.S. materials to make the most comfortable, durable pack in disc golf. Our lifetime warranty stays with the pack, not the purchaser. So regardless of how you find us, we will be here to make sure your pack stays on the course and out of the landfill. Pound's integrity is held together with more than just thread.
Welcome back to the Upshot. Top 5 FPO finishers at Waco, and we have to start at the top, Josh. Death, Taxes, and Kristen Tatar.
I texted you after Kristen won, and I texted you what I said on the show. I said, I will continue to pick Kristen Tatar at first until Kristen Tatar tells me not to pick her at first.
Yeah.
See,
I get it. But
right.
Listen, here's the thing. My thesis was right. I was right. Kristen was not that
you
sharp.
were right.
She looked a little bit rusty, and it didn't matter. She still won the tournament. That is not good news for the rest of FPO. It is. I would say it's terrible news. Like, basically, she shot right around her rating, and that was good enough. Now, obviously, Ella Hansen should have won this tournament. She blew it. There is nothing more to say than that she blew it. She made the wrong mistakes in the ways that you couldn't make them if you wanted to win. You simply cannot go OB 3 times in the final 4 holes. Was it final 3 holes?
3-3. OB 16, 17, 18.
I mean, you got a 4-shot lead with 4 to play. You just have to go out there and play safe, put it in the fairway, take your par, and you cannot lose. And she wedged open the door with the bogey on 16, and then she gave back another stroke with the bogey on 17. And then, when it looks like, okay, well, at least she can go to a playoff, she goes OB again. It's the stuff of nightmares. And I talked about this on the Rapid React show, Josh. This is the kind of thing she's going to learn from. I think that the next time she'll be better prepared for the situation. I think she had a caddy, but somebody emailed us about this too. She needs a real caddy. She needs somebody who's there to tell her, hey, you need to throw this shot. Don't throw that disc. You don't need to try to bite off that much distance. Throw a mid, put it in the fairway. Just keep it simple. Throw a forehand with a super overstable disc. Put it in the fairway. Don't skyball a huge drive. And the thing is, it's not like Ella was trying to make that mistake and put the nose way up and have it dump way left on 16. The nerves are going to get to you in that spot, and you have to fight that with like a disc choice and a shot selection that minimizes the chance of a disaster like that. And that's not what happened. And I think you're seeing why we're going to get to the point very soon where the top players have legit caddies who tell them what to do. Not just carry the bag.
I completely agree. On the flip side, and the one counterpoint I'm going to give there, I don't know what Ella's contract looks like, but it's difficult to find a caddy who's going to travel with you and be on the bag, right? I think the ideal situation is she finds an MPO player who'd be willing to carry her bag while she's playing, because it's difficult. It's not like I would be willing to bet that Ella's contract is not one that she can pay full-time caddy to travel with her.
Sure.
And so that's the difficult part, right? I don't know if Kristen Tatar's salary is one that she should pay a full-time caddy to travel with her for her contract deal, right? Like, what, she's on the 125 a year for 4 years, I think is what it is.
Yeah, but I bet she's making a good chunk more than that from sales incentives. Plus, she won $100,000 last year on the course.
And that's true.
I mean, you could.
That's
right?
true, but
do you need it?
Right.
If I get your point. I get your point.
But my point is, on the FPO side right now,
they're not making millions.
That is
out
financially
here.
very difficult.
Yes.
No, they're not. They're not.
Yes.
And so that is the difficult side. But you're right. And the fear I have right now is that Ella Hansen has all the skills and has shown us that she has all the skills to be a top contender. She's only been in the sport for 2 years. She is just an amazing player with an amazing background in disc sports, and I really think we're just going to see her continue to progress. My fear is that this season is just a season of having a hard time closing out a tournament for her. Because we say, oh, she has experience, she'll be better prepared for it. How many times did Kevin Jones blow a tournament when he got in the lead before he finally got one. How many times has Anthony Barella been on lead card and then not even podiumed?
Yep.
There are players who struggle with this their entire career.
The pressure
and
gets to them.
Eventually, yes, right? And eventually some of them get over the hump and then they're able to play better moving forward. But there are people like Matteo, like Anthony Barella, who have all the skills and there's no reason they couldn't win an Elite Series event except for what really feels like pressure in the greatest moments. And Matteo melted this past weekend, and he's done so regularly, even when he's been at the top and is one of the top rated players in the world. And I really hope that is not the case for Ella, but that is still my one big hesitation. And I'm not quite really willing to, send it on the Ella train yet. I drafted her. I think she's a great player, but I am nervous for Ella, and I hope that she's able to get over this hump.
There's a lot of things that you can look at here. I mean, a Kristen who is dialed in wins this tournament by 5 strokes. Mm-hmm. Kristen was not on her game. She missed short putts. She was flipping her backhands weird. I mean, the backhand drives never looked right the whole weekend. And she had problems with that. She kind of got away with it in round 1, and then rounds 2 and 3, she started taking some strokes because of it. Forehand looked great. Mostly the putting was pretty good inside the circle. Didn't make a circle 2 putt the whole weekend. Clearly still like kind of working out some of the kinks, and looked like she. Every time you're like, okay, this is where Kristen Tatar is going to lock in and win this tournament late. She didn't do it. And it was like, mm-hmm. I said in the Discord, I said, it's a wrap. After hole 14, I was like, it's done. And Ella just had the tournament in the bag and gave it away. And now you got to give Kristen credit because she hit the shots late.
So
monster putt on 18.
I want to ask you something real fast.
Yeah.
Kristen said in her post-round interview, after hole 13, she assumed she was out of it, gave up, and did not know that she had a chance to win until after she cleared the water on 18. She threw across the water, checked scores, and was like, oh my gosh, I could still win? Like, didn't have any idea of the score.
I mean, it's understandable.
What she said in the post-round interview.
Ella's getting birdies. Yeah. Ella's getting birdies. Out. Kristen is missing putts. You take the double bogey on 13 and you figure it's over. Mm-hmm. But, ultimately Ella did not birdie after hole 10. And yeah, I mean, Kristen basically was like, all right, I'm playing loose now. And the thing is, even down the stretch, Kristen missed circle 1 putts on 14, 15, and 17. It's like she wasn't like dialed in some crazy run. Like she made the putt on 18. It was a great putt. It was cold-blooded. But Ella opened the door in a major way. I mean, I don't know, what was the win percentage, right? I don't really like this win probability stuff, especially during the tournament, but like Ella was up to 94%. And then the bogey dropped her to 78%. The next bogey dropped her to 72%. She's still 72% going into 18, basically. And then kaboom.
Mm-hmm. Kaboom. Oh, man.
Brutal.
That is brutal. That is brutal.
Kristen becomes the 3rd fastest FPO player ever to get to 10 Elite Series or major victories. She did it in 29 tournaments. The only 2 players to do that before are legends of the past. And still a little bit present. Juliana Korver did it in 10 and 15 back in 2003. Des Redding did it 10 wins in 22 events in 2005. But you think about how much deeper the field is today. Kristen, wow, what a showing. Now, let me talk about some positives for Ella, okay, Josh? Big
Please.
Positive.
There's a lot of them.
There's a lot of them. Obviously, being in a position to win a tournament at all is a big positive. I don't think we've really seen her at the spot late in a final round where she had a chance to win an Elite Series. And so that is alone is big. But Waco, you're telling me this is the course? This is the tournament where Ella is in is looking like way better than everybody else. I mean, aside from the pressure meltdown, she was clearly the best player there this weekend. And to do that on this course with all of the woods that it has, this is not a bomber course. It's the shortest course on tour. And this is a sign of growth and improvement in her ability to shape shots, in her ability to throw up shots. To me, this is a very positive long-term sign for what she can do. And I do think that, Josh, she's going to learn from the mistake down the stretch.
The other thing that I thought was really impressive, through hole 10, she'd only missed, on the third round, only missed one circle one putt. And that is just so encouraging to see, because, right, what this says to me is that the putt is no longer a mechanical issue. It was the nerves, right? And I mean, I don't know. Round 2, was only 44% circle 1X putting. Not great. It was also crazy windy for the FPO round 2, though. On round 1, she shot 73% circle 1X putting. Much better. And early parts of round 3, also just putting really, really well and really strong. That is encouraging to me because it doesn't scream mechanical issue. You're just a bad putter. It's just the nerves that got to her in this tournament. And that is showing the completeness of the game that is going to be necessary for Ella to get over the hump and get a win.
Yeah. Interesting thing. I feel like somebody pointed this out in the Discord. Ella seems to putt better for par than for birdie. I think that's a mental thing too. I think it's like when the pressure, I don't know. I guess you could describe it both ways. Is there more pressure to make a par putt or more pressure to make a birdie putt? I don't know. But like, she'll miss a 25-footer for birdie and then make the same distance for par. I don't know what's going on with that, but it does seem like there's probably some psychology there going on. Guess who else is on the podium, Josh? Owen Scoggins. Out here doing it again. 8th podium in 27 elite major starts since the beginning of 2021. Just continuing to rock and roll. But now here's the craziest thing. And we talked about this in the Rapid Reacts. If you look at the stats, Josh, where do you think Owen Scoggins finished in, strokes gained putting?
Is it first?
It's not first. It is not first.
I'm trying. I don't remember what it was. I know we talked about it.
Owen Scoggins was, had 6.95 strokes gained tee to green and was almost at 0 in strokes gained putting. I mean, it was straight up a terrible putting weekend for her. 62% circle 1, 0% circle 2.
So we talked about this on the Rapid Reacts, and I think we're going to have to... And someone told us that we were wrong, and I'm going to argue with that again.
Okay.
Round 2... Owen doesn't have stats anymore.
Oh, okay. That's right. There was this stat discrepancy in round 2.
We said they looked funky, and someone in the Discord was like, no, like, it looks fine. Like, I think there's no problem.
That has been fully removed.
But there are no stats for Owen in round 2 now.
Yeah,
so.
Okay. Pump the brakes. It's probably not as bad as it looks.
Owen still knows how to putt, everybody.
Well, but, I mean, to be fair... the stats that I just read you then are for rounds 1 and 3.
Are those taking in zeros though for the others?
I guess I don't know.
I don't either.
I guess I don't know. Let me see if I can. No, I don't think so because it's showing as just literally statless. Anyway,
okay.
TBD. The point is, Owen was not up to her usual standard in putting, and yet was great tee to green enough so that she finished top 3 of the tournament.
Not many courses where that's going to be the case for Owen. Waco definitely can be one of them, where she can be top tee to green. Owen also is the second highest rated player in the world at 976, and is 5 strokes clear of the tie for third place. So she is another crossover in our top five.
Sarah Hokum at 4th place. Now this makes sense, right? In the way that like Ella finishing basically, being the best player of the tournament, you're like, wow, that's surprising. Sarah Hokom playing great at Waco makes a lot of sense. This is her top finish at an Elite Series, dating back to Champions Cup last year, where she finished third. So no surprise to me. I would love to see kind of like a bounce back season from Sarah. Wouldn't that be fun?
It would be fun. I am not compelled that Father Time is going to give that back, but it's a nice start. It's a nice start. So that's really about all I have to say.
She's still first in the TGPT standings, Josh.
Gotta give her credit for that.
Now, of course, she was one of the few players to play both of the silver events in the wraparound, and that's helping quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
But still number one.
Yep. 5th place at Waco, Haley King. And Haley King shows us again that she has probably one of the most complete skill sets of the FPO division in terms of, like, she can win anywhere. She won at U.S. Women's at courses that we said were too short. Like, some people were saying were too short, though I loved and thought was great for the women's side in the FPO division. Haley King won it. Haley King wins long courses. Haley King wins at GMC. Haley King plays well at Waco. Haley King has such a complete game in disc golf. She has so much talent.
Gosh, isn't it great she's on my fantasy team? That's awesome. Keep talking about it.
I will. I just hope she plays enough this season. Like, of all the players who it's like, where's their drive at? Where's their, like, you don't have to ask the question of Kristen Tatar, like, oh, does she have the drive right now? Like, that is a question, though, that you have to ask about Haley King regularly, because there are just times, I mean, remember last season was so weird that just hardly touring, and I know that she's registered for more. I hope it stays that way, because when Haley King plays and plays well, the FPO division is better for it. 6th place at LVC, 5th place at Waco. I mean, those, it's like Calvin, right? It's seeing those kind of good, strong finishes at 2 such different events just bodes so well for Haley King.
Yeah.
I hope that the drive stays there for the entire season.
Yeah, I think, Haley also, like, gets a top 5 finish with a lot of room for improvement, where it's like, fairway hits were among the lowest in the top 10. And, as a result, Circle 1 and regulation numbers were pretty low. Putting was okay from Circle 1, didn't make a Circle 2 putt on the weekend. There's a lot of places where she can still get better, but like just so much natural talent. And I think it's a really good sign for where she's at. And she looks kind of like refreshed to me, like seems more excited about being out there. And I think last year was kind of just a year of difficult transition. She's still a young person who moved away from home, and like that's a lot to deal with. So I think we're going to see, as Haley kind of gets more settled, I think we're going to have she can be back to what she was doing in 2021. Elsewhere, tied for 5th, Deanne Carey and Anniken, is it Steen? They were saying it weird on the broadcast, but maybe we're pronouncing it wrong. I'll have to look it up.
Always thought it was
I'll have to look it up. Anyway, a nice showing for Anniken. I mean, not a player that we necessarily talk about as one of the top from Europe, but she's up to number 22 in the UDisc world rankings, and like strong putter, and had some really nice moments this weekend.
Yeah, and I'm curious. I need to watch more of Anniken to see where like her distance is. That's a big thing I just don't know, and. The top 5 is nothing to shake a stick at, and she has played well in the past. And we've been getting emails all year that we need to keep an eye on the off season on Anniken. So that's a great start, and I really hope that she's able to keep it going. Deanne Carey, we see Deanne Carey at the top occasionally, but her biggest limitation is distance, and we know that. So top 5 in Waco shows that Deanne Carey's got a strong skill set. It's just a limited skill set. Also, one quick shout out to Paige Shue, 8th place.
Yep.
And, hanging out. And honestly, could have finished higher, but in the final after hole 11 went 4 over par. So you bump that down to 9 down, right? 9 down, and just remove some of those bogeys, and she's in the top 5 pretty easily. So great weekend from Paige.
Evelina didn't get the putter back, Josh. It's looking pretty brutal out there.
She didn't. What was it? A 6 putt on 17, I think.
Oh my gosh.
In round 2. Did you see that video?
I did. It's brutal. I mean, okay, you ready for this? It's not good.
Yeah.
You don't want to see it. By the way, there was a picture of Paul Macbeth giving her putting tips after, I think, round 1.
I think it was round 2.
Okay.
After that meltdown.
Yeah. I mean, Paul Macbeth, what a homie. I think I think a lot of people have pointed out at this point, and we've talked about, I think it's time for like a wholesale rewrite on how this is all going. Where did she finish strokes gained tee to green? 3rd behind Ella Hansen and Paige Shue. And of course was dead last putting, and by like a massive margin. The second worst, Chrissy Fountain, was 14 strokes lost on the putting green. Evelina, 21 strokes lost on the putting green. 21. It's absolutely brutal.
Sorry. You were right. It was round 1. Round 2 was the back-to-back 7s due to putting. So you were right about that. Sorry.
Yeah. There's just the way that she's throwing the putt doesn't make sense. Like, no one should be missing putts from inside of 15 feet ever. Except for once in a great while. Like,
it should be airballing putts.
I mean, completely missing the chains, like power grip putting with the hyzer style. It just, none of it makes any sense. Like, tear it all down, rebuild it from the ground up. Anything is better than what you're doing now. Don't try to keep doing the same thing. I don't understand. Like, Josh, this was worse. This weekend, I think, was worse than anything we saw last year, and that is saying something.
Yeah.
It is so frustrating to watch a player this good struggle this badly. And like, yes, it's yips, it's in her head, it's all of that. But the actual physical way that she throws the putt is not conducive to improving anything. Please do something else. Turbo putt. It doesn't matter. Throw it like a basketball. It's like, how are you missing for 15 feet? 10 feet? It's inexplicable.
I read someone say that Evelina should just foot fault everything inside of 15 feet so that she can take the step and basically dunk it in and just take the extra stroke.
I'll take the stroke.
Because it's better than what's happening right now. Because at least it doesn't turn into 6 strokes in one hole, right? Like, she 6 putts on hole. Actually, I'm gonna use hole 2. So round 2, round 1, 6 putts, hole 17. Right, that's bad. But on round 2,
you just gloss 16, over. She's 6 putts, hole 17. That's bad. Yes, it's bad. It's really bad. It's horribly bad. It's like the worst thing ever.
Hole 15, round 2, she 3 putts and then comes out to hole 16 and 5 putts. 8 strokes in putting in 2 holes.
Josh,
it's
I feel bad because it's like, obviously this is just like this mental albatross that just weighs on her. But the fact that there's been, if anything, it feels like there's been it's worse. That, like, okay, what do we need to do? We're going to completely change it, right? We're not going to we're going to completely flip the style. Got to do something different. It's an absolute must at this point. Sorry to go off the rails there, but I just it's tough. Okay,
it can't be worse.
It cannot be worse. And Deanne Carey, by the way, I don't want to gloss over this too much. I thought she looked at times like one of the best players on the course, and that was cool to see. A really nice showing for Deanne, and I think some people will be like, oh, it's Texas, but I don't know. I feel like Deanne Carey could like have a really nice season where I think a top 10 DGPT standings finish would not be out of the realm of possibility for Deanne this year.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
I hope so. There's a lot of courses that are long.
Top 5 by ratings. Let's get through. We already talked about Kristen and Owen. Katrina finishes 10th. Not really the best showing after obviously a great LVC. And I don't really know that I have too much to say about Katrina. Just didn't quite have it this weekend in all 3 rounds. Paige Pierce, Josh, finishes tied for 16th, averages 951 rating on the weekend. That is tied for her worst tournament rating at an Elite Series or major since the beginning of 2022, which was at U.S. Women's when she just played horrendously. Paige looks like she hasn't played disc golf in 4 months.
She doesn't. It's also Waco. I mean, she hasn't played here in a couple of years, and
played
I think
well
you're
here,
right.
you mean.
But played well. Excuse me. Thank you. I don't know. I have a hard time. This feels like Eagle to me in a lot of ways. Like, I just have a hard time overreacting or even caring about this finish from Paige. I really want to see Open at Austin this weekend. That's going to be, I think, telling. It's a fresh tournament. It's not like, oh, this is one Paige we know Paige plays poorly at. We have, the Texas swing talk about Paige all the time, but brand new tournaments at Open at Austin. Let's see how she plays there. But she just came back from vacation. She hasn't played a lot of disc golf and starts at a tournament that she is not great at as of recent history. So I don't know. I have a hard time caring about this finish too much.
I mean, I said before the tournament that Paige Pierce had no chance to win because it's just like her head is not in the game right now. And that dates back to last season, Josh. Now, the thing is, obviously, she's so talented. She still won multiple majors last year, but I feel like Paige it feels like a chore for her to be playing disc golf right now. And I hope we see her get through that because I want to see top level Paige again. And it feels like we really haven't seen it very much in like 2 years.
Yeah.
Missy Gannon rounds out the top 5. She finished tied with Paige in 16th place. I don't know. It's
much more disappointed in this finish.
It's disappointing,
yes.
Right?
Yeah. This one's weird to me.
Just didn't have it off the tee.
Which, at this tournament, I mean, of all tournaments, this is where you would think Missy could excel. And, if Missy had come out and won this event, we would be talking about that and saying like, yeah, okay, this is like Waco, yeah, distance, like not a big thing. She was first in Circle 1X putting.
Yeah, I mean, she putted
85%.
Putted great,
but just could not hit the fairway enough. And 68% fairway hits. It from a player who just is like the epitome of consistency, I am disappointed that a course that sets up well for her game went so poorly. But I hope hope Open at Austin goes better.
Okay, a couple little things to clean up here before we wrap up today. Open at Austin coming up this weekend, so we got the preview coming your way, a little special edition preview on Thursday. Josh, before we get to Purse Watch and the picks and over-under, DGN had, once again, a dropout for a lot of viewers during hole 18 of the MPO round as Kyle Klein was like trying to close out a win, basically. And a lot of people didn't even see him throw the putt. This same thing happened at LVC, and it appears to be an issue with too much server load on the Vimeo servers that's DGN's streaming provider. And so when all of these people are tuning in to watch this, there's a big surge of people who want to watch the end of the tournament. So they flip on DGN, and it's crashing now 2 tournaments in a row. I mean, people are getting very upset online, and I understand that. Like, you're trying to watch this key thing, and you can't see the critical shots down the stretch. I mean, how big of a problem is this?
I don't think you can overstate the concern that DGN should have about this problem. If this happens again at Open at Austin, because here's why. Their biggest discount and their biggest viewer base take advantage of the PGA membership, where they get 50% off.
Sure.
I don't know the numbers exactly, but I would be willing to assume that it's probably upwards of like 75% are PDGA members who probably use this service.
I have no idea, but it's got to be a
I don't either.
significant chunk.
It's okay. Here's the problem with that for the DGN. You have to do month to month as a PDGA member and cannot do the annual plan
To get the discount.
which means to get the discount, correct? Which means every single player who's using or viewer who's using that discount could choose not to renew their subscription at the end of March. They could say, I have tried for 2 tournaments now, and if Open in Austin makes 3, I have 3 tournaments now. I have not been able to watch the final hole when it was close on MPO. And would you be surprised if PDGA members said, I'm month to month, I just won't renew till I fix this issue? When I hear an announcement that they're not using Vimeo or that they have increased the streaming bandwidth, then I might look at it. But right now, why would I pay for this?
I mean, if I'm the Pro Tour, I am looking seriously at my options for making a change sooner rather than later, because it's not just that. There are also you can't rewind during a round. You can't pause. All you can do is watch the live action at the time. Which, I mean, come on, this streaming technology is at the point where you should be able to pause and rewind. Like YouTube's at it for 10 years. Most other CDNs, content delivery networks, fancy term for streaming provider, are going to allow you to pause and rewind. But
yes.
Vimeo promised them that they would have this. They didn't have it. I mean, Vimeo is just totally, they're botching it, right? And this has been, now there's been years of issues. And frankly, it's a sign of progress, right? What you're seeing is that DGN is getting popular, right? There's a lot of people signed up. There's a lot of people who want to watch. Those are all really good problems to have. But they're using what I would consider to kind of be like let's call it like a prosumer product, right? It's like, it's for companies who don't have the money to go and spend the dollars on a big streaming platform. And so, Vimeo's easy. It's not really cheap, but it's like affordable. And, you get a lot of stuff, right? They have all the apps built for you. So when you have the phone app, that's all Vimeo, right? That's all been developed by Vimeo. But that's why there's all these weird problems all the time. Like sometimes you can't watch it on your phone, but you can watch it on your computer. And sometimes the Roku doesn't work right. And sometimes you can't. And now you can't pause and rewind. And it's not really the Pro Tour's fault that those things are happening. And I don't think it's the Pro Tour's fault that there's glitching happening on hole 18 when there's a big server load. But the problem is, at the end of the day, this is their product. Like, this is their number one product. This is where they make the majority of the money that they earn during the year. And this is now, like, LVC, you can call it a fluke. They talk to Vimeo and they say, hey, you got to fix this. It doesn't get fixed. The same thing happens again. To me, it's overreacting to cancel your subscription because you can't watch like 2 minutes of footage. I do understand why it's extremely frustrating. I think the bigger thing is it's like the Pro Tour has to be looking at this and saying, we've got to go in another direction. Like, we need to go pay the money to have the ultra robust, the most, even if it means spending more money, you just have to put yourself in a position that you're not going to have server overload issues for not even a major, like a regular season tournament.
I know you say like it'd be overreaction, but imagine if you were one of the subscribers that missed the USDGC playoff between Paul and Kyle Klein because it crashed. And then these 2 events where it was close. What if Open at Austin goes playoff and you miss the playoff?
I know. I mean, I hear you. I hear you. And I also sympathize because they are trying to do everything that they possibly can to make it good. And like, they're being let down by their service provider.
Yep.
They're spending the money on the fanciest equipment. Trust me. Like, I know, like the technology they're using for their camera uplink is as good as you can buy. You can't get better without like wiring your cameras with fiber, which is not going to happen anytime soon. So, that doesn't mean people can't complain about problems. And like, this is clearly a major problem. So we'll see what they do. Okay, Josh, who won the picks this week?
So we tied the picks again, which means we are tied, deadlocked for the season thus far. I whiff on the MPO podium. I got no picks correct. You picked Calvin correctly for your MPO podium. Over on the FPO side, you had Owen and Kristen on your podium. I picked Kristen to win. That gives us both 3 points. You had 3 podium picks. I get Kristen for the win for 3. keeping us tied. You also win the over-under of the player being above 1031.5 rated. Kyle Klein is 1040 rated. I will say, though, in the top 5, 3 of the top 5 were below 1031.5 rated.
Okay.
Cole Redallen, Adam Hammis, and Kevin Jones all were on my team for
Josh,
that one.
I will grant you the moral victory.
Thank you. I'm glad. I was worried that I was going to be completely embarrassed by this over under and it was going to be just a bunch of 1040 guys who are at the top. So I'm very pleased with that.
All right. Purse watch. Here we go. 53,380 for MPO, 26,980 for FPO. That gives you a total purse of just over $80,000. That is a little bit short of LVC, which was at 87. This is about 18, almost 19% increase from last year's Waco purse, with $35,000 added cash. It was $67,798 last year, up to $83,660 this year. So nice improvement. Seems like 80,000 might be the mark this year. I don't expect we're going to see other tournaments go below that number, and in fact, it's possible that that is the minimum required payout for the Pro Tour Elite Series this year. So Waco coming in behind Vegas. Last year, those were the 2 lowest tournaments. Maybe they will be again this year.
3 things that you need to watch. Jonesboro was at 72,000 last year. Dynamic Disc Open was at 77,000 last year. Those 2 both did not hit the 80 mark. Everything else hit the 80 mark. Excluding LVC and Waco.
Got to expect some increases across the board, I think.
The last one you need to watch, last 2, I guess. Open at Austin, Music City Open. Both new Elite Series events for this season.
Yep.
Those are the 2 that I don't know where they're going to be. It's just hard to know.
I mean, they were below 35,000 last year because they were on silver. There's a much bigger bar to being on the Elite Series in terms of the money required.
Correct.
So we'll see what happens there. All right. Final.
We got to rate hole 18.
Yeah, rating hole 18. Josh, I'll let you go first.
Okay. I've thought a lot about this. There are a lot of things I like about hole 18. But I am only going to give it a 2 stars. And the reason
2 out of 5?
2 out of 5, yeah.
Okay.
So I think you and I both gave LVC 3 out of 5. 4 out of 5? 3 out of 5? I don't remember. Anyway, I'll have to go back and look.
I can't remember if we did it out of 10 or out of 5.
We did it out of 5. I remember that much. Yeah.
I think I gave it a 4 out of 5.
I think we both might have given it 4s.
Okay. Yeah.
So I give Waco a 2. And
Wow.
the reason why, here's why. When you walk up and you need 2 strokes and the announcers have to say the only way this goes to a playoff is with an ace, I think that I want hole 18 to have more opportunity than that. And like the ace is possible, but I want a hole where you can throw hyper aggressive off the tee and then try to throw in on your second shot to make up your strokes, where there's more decision making. There was no decision there, right? There was no Kyle Klein was going to go for it. There was not enough risk to justify him not doing so. Now, if there's a headwind, night and day different hole. But I think holes that depend on the direction of the wind in order to set up the kind of drama that you need for a finishing hole are not going to be my favorite.
It's an interesting point. I mean, I'm trying to think now, how many hole 18s are par 3s? Because the reason that exists is because it's a par 3.
Right,
if you have a par 4, maybe you can drive to 60 feet and hit a putt to get the eagle. Yeah, but I think 2 out of 5 is very punitive. Even if your contention is you should be a par 4 or a par 5, because it's a unique par 5 or par 3 and a unique hole 18 because it has a massive water carry. There are not that many holes in disc golf where you really have to throw it far over the water, and that's the only route to a birdie. It's like people throw it short, even people who can throw really far, because you're dealing with a headwind. For me, I think I go 4 out of 5. I think the drama of the water carry is good. I get the point that you're making. I hadn't thought about that, but I like the point. 2 out of 5 seems very punitive for what is definitely one of the more interesting par 3s on tour.
I just think, and you're right, it is, but I just think of all the hole 18s. I mean, that is going to be, for most courses, the signature hole. And I just think it's a high bar. And I don't want to have to wonder if the wind is going to be enough to make it a drama that time. And I like par fours better. I had a conversation with someone else about this.
I think that's fair.
So
I'm gonna pay paying
it's a
attention.
2 for me.
How many hole 18s are par threes versus fours, or occasionally, I guess, fives? I think it's pretty rare to see a par 5 on 18, but many of the
Portland
best
did
hole
5 a couple
18s
years
in my
ago,
brain are par 4s.
That's what I think too.
So we'll keep an eye
because
on that.
a 100-foot throw in, 150-foot throw in is more likely than a 500-foot or 450 ace.
It's true.
Right. So if you're able to drive and get within 150 feet because you went aggressive, that throw in, like I'm still on the edge of my seat. I didn't turn off the Adam Hammis drive, but it was close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to watch, but it's like, you know that it's
right.
one in a million type shot. Okay. Yeah. It's interesting stuff. Well, we'll get your feedback. Always let us know what you think about anything we discuss on the show. Upshot at oldtworld.com. We always like hearing from you. Preview show for Open at Austin coming up on Thursday. So we'll see you then right here on the Upshot.